the Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. Well, some people might say that I'm right where I belong, outstanding in my field. Well, not my field. It's the field that's part of the Henry Ford at Greenfield Village and Firestone Farm, and we're blessed once again to have Brian James Egan join us. Thanks for being with us, Brian.
Thank you, Will, for being here. Welcome back.
Thank you. What is this, and what do we do in this fine spring day?
We have a single bottom walk-behind plow. So from the earliest part of the 19th century and even before that, these are the type of plows that would have broken open soil for any type of tillage. And so by the time of the Civil War, you're going to see a combination of wood and iron mixed together. And this is what you would have done to anybody involved in agriculture, which the vast majority of people in this country had a connection to agriculture.
Well, tell me what this is. What is this?
So this particular model is an Oliver chilled cast iron plow. The Oliver company, Mr. Oliver started in 1855 experimenting with different processes of the iron, and with some partners developed a company. And by the 1860s, the later part of the 1860s, they were manufacturing more Oliver plows out of the state of Indiana than just about any other company. What the innovation was with an Oliver chilled cast iron plow was just that. It was a chilled plow. The moldboard and the frog and the other parts of the iron were historically or traditionally made out of cast iron. But you know, cast iron is brittle. Fields inherently are going to have rocks or other debris in them, so they would break easily. But with this process, chilling the cast iron made the outside sort of case hardened, but it still was a little bit malleable, inexpensive. So just about every middle class farmer could afford one of these.
But even if he didn't have one of these new pieces of innovation, the shape and the layout is going to be pretty much the same, right?
Absolutely. There's a single moldboard, and it has somewhat of a curved texture to it. And when you're plowing, the idea is that you want to take your soil and completely invert it. It's called inversion. So basically you would put manure on your fields, or in this particular case we have a cover crop here that will be composted under the soil. So in essence, much like you do at a garden at home, with a shovel you're going to just turn over the soil. The same idea here. So you want complete inversion. So in this particular method of plowing, you only are creating one furrow at a time. They started developing multi-bottom plows, some of them sulky plows that you could ride on, but traditionally and historically through the Civil War, and this is what you see in all the illustrations, Will, and lithographs and paintings, is a man walking, two horses, draft horses, and walking behind a plow. Generally an acre per day per horse, two horses, you're going to do about 2 acres a day.
Wow, that's the farm I grew up on, was 2 acres. That's not a lot of space in a day.
No, it's not. So farmers in the spring or in the fall, if you were going to be planting winter wheat, you'd be doing a lot of plowing. But you start out, should I get into that?
Go for it.
Okay. You're going to start out with what they call a back furrow. So if you're going to open up a new section of land, you're going to not have soil to flip over, to invert into another furrow. So it's going to invert and land on top of the ground. And then you would go down one way, because this will only throw soil to the right. So in the back furrow, you're flipping all of the soil on top of the surface, like I said. So inherently, it's going to be a little bit higher. You go down one way, you're going to come back the other way. So that's called a back furrow. So if you look at an accurate 19th century field that's been plowed, you're going to see slight rises, and then it's going to level out, and then you might see a little bit of a depression in that, and that is called a dead furrow. And a dead furrow, Will, is where you do a section and you get so far, and then you're going to go down and reset another section, because you don't want to be inefficient to have your horses walk all the way down to the edge of the next furrow. So you would do it in sections.
You do it in chunks.
In chunks.
Do this,
right.
Do this, and work our way down.
Absolutely. So the dead furrow is where those two sections or chunks meet, because you're throwing dirt out of it, and so you have somewhat of a trench or a hole, a furrow. And when you harrow and you smooth over it, you can kind of fill in some of that and level it out. You want to make it as level as possible.
But a harrow's not moving as much dirt at a time as a plow turning over a whole chunk, right?
Absolutely. And these chunks here, then you're going to follow up with a harrow, and we can talk about that at another time. So.
Great. Okay, well, what is this like physically?
What is it like physically? So operating a plow, the horses are doing the primary work. Okay, they're pushing into their collars and they're pulling the traces. If you are operating this properly and everything is tuned, I could steer it by just putting light pressure on this back and forth. The plow, like water or anything following the path of least resistance, is going to want to jump out of the furrow because it just wants to do that. So you got to counter by putting your weight in that to keep it into the furrow.
And where do you walk when you're plowing?
And where I walk behind is just in the furrow. And literally the horse in front of me is the lead horse. That's the horse on the right, and his job is to walk in the furrow as well.
So the two of you walk in the furrow, the other horse walks out, and hopefully we go in a straight line.
That's right. And typically you want a swath depending on the soil conditions. So today we had a little bit of moisture. I could get about 8 inches or so and flip over. Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little less, and it also depends on the composition of the soil. But the soil is looking pretty good.
Great. Well, that's what plowing is.
Yeah, and literally it's counterintuitive. So in a minute, I'd like to see if you'd like to give it a shot.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Tell me what's counterintuitive.
So counterintuitive to this. So the plow is going to want to drift off to the right, and your reaction initially is going to be pushing on the left. But like when they say about in a skid on a car, you want to turn into the slide or the skid, it's the same way. So it's counterintuitive. So when the plow is going to your left, you want to push on the left to bring it back center. If the plow is going to the right, you want to push on the right side or apply pressure on the right side to drift it back in the center.
Wow. And I assume when you're teaching plowing here, this isn't a one-man thing where you know how to do it.
No, it's all learning by doing, and that's what Henry Ford was about. And everyone who works here in Greenfield Village, especially on our living history sites like Firestone Farm, it's learning by doing. And it's quite a skill. And before we give it a shot, and again, I'll compare driving a modern vehicle or a car. When you're driving down the highway, it's not locked wheel. It's a little bit of back and forth. That's it. The other thing too is you're just applying pressure. You're tall, so you just do this. You're not pushing into it. You're not doing this.
That's the horse's
That's the horse's job, and it's going to tire you out. You literally want to just keep your weight shifting like this.
So I just want to steer side to side, and I want to steer into anything that's wrong.
That's right. And the other challenge is going to be walking in this furrow because you're going to want to stumble and step and all that.
Well, that'll be entertaining for everybody.
It would be
if I fall on my
entertaining.
face and slap my nose
Absolutely.
on this plow. That ought to be rather entertaining. So, well, let's do this. Let's take a minute. Let's reset the cameras out of the way because we need to move these two big guys around, and we'll rejoin, and let's see how I do.
All right. You ready, sir?
I'm ready. Let's give it a
Okay.
go.
All right. Johnny, Wilbur, step up. Get up there, boys. Yep, in the furrow, in the furrow. Good boy.
Push on the right. Now come back on the left a bit. I'm pretty impressed already, Steve. With it left a little bit. You want about 8 inches or so.
Oh,
a
I'm
little
going
bit to the left.
too big, yeah.
Yep.
There we go. Okay.
You see? Now
Now
right.
get it right. Yep. Holy smokes.
Left.
Yeah, you want to balance on the tip of the spear here.
You are doing excellent. I'm surprised that you're doing, not that you couldn't do it, but I'm just usually people don't have on the right a bit. See, the biggest challenge, Will, is what? Walking in the
trench and...
Yep. Straight up.
That is pretty good, sir.
Good boy. Straight up. Straight up.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Straight up. Straight up.
And you're doing an excellent job with that. And look at that. Not bad for the first one,
A
buddy.
little curvy there in the
Nice
middle, but not
job.
bad at all. Thank you.
Don't try to push it. That's a lot of things that the guys do wrong.
Yep.
They try to push it.
Let the
Horses
horse.
are up there.
Now I can tell you that's going to probably start.
So I'm going to have to go to my right to bring it back pretty quick.
Yeah. You can start like that, and
Okay.
we're ready.
Yep.
Johnny, Wilbur, get up. Get your head up there. Now, get up. Get up.
Left, big time left. Left.
Straight up.
Okay, now bring it back right. Hard right to get it sucked in. Hard right. Now bring it center.
There we
Just
go.
follow that row of wheat, or of rye.
Yep.
Follow that row of rye. Yep, straight up.
Better by the end.
Come on. Straight up.
ugly
Not
in the
bad.
middle and ugly to start.
No, that's okay.
Johnny, on up.
So it's what we do next
boy.
to work out, and that's not actually that bad. In the beginning, is what we'll do is we'll take a little bit bigger than 8 inches if we need to, or if it's thin, we'll take a little bit lighter. If it's wider, we'll take a little less.
Great. Well, what happens if one of the parts breaks on this?
Well, that's the great thing about the Oliver Company is they had interchangeable parts. So they manufactured millions and millions of the moldboard. That's the main part that scours the dirt.
Okay.
To the point where you can still get new old stock today from stuff that was manufactured, hundreds of years ago.
Well, I'll tell you this, Brian, my heart's pumping. I understand why those farm boys made good soldiers later on. You do an acre of this or 2 acres of this a day, and you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah. Great job, Will. Thank you for coming out here. You did an excellent job for me.
Thank you. Wow.
I've trained many, and you really got it right from the top.
Well, that's pretty great. Thank you for joining us at Civil War Digital Digest and spending your time with us. We want to say thanks to our patrons. Their financial support is making our ability to travel to places like this all the more possible, and to the Henry Ford for hosting us. Thanks, Brian. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.